Good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend Katherine Economou, and it's my joy to welcome you this morning to the Center for Spiritual Living Temecula Valley online, our Sunday celebration service. I'm joined by our artistic director, John Foltz. Good morning,
hey,
John.
How's it going?
And off camera, we have our practitioner of the day, Don Taylor, with us, who did a wonderful meditation this morning. Thank you so much, Don. And we are so glad to be connected with you this morning for our service and just taking that time to be together and really allow for the joy of this day to come forward, because I'm anticipating a really joyful day today. So with that, we're going to get started. I think you got a song for us?
I do. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace. There is peace. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace. There is peace. And I rest and trust and breathe and know. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace.
In the stillness of this moment, there is peace. And as I go deep within, to the deepest part of my being, I recognize that divine presence. One presence, one power, one eternal creator being, and I call that being God. God is that divine presence that is love and peace and joy and harmony and justice and wisdom and so much more. And I'm so grateful this morning for knowing that it is that power, that presence, that is guiding and supporting me on this journey that I call life. And I'm so grateful this morning to knowing that I am created by that power and that presence, knowing that every breath that I take is the breath of God. And knowing as the light of God shines on me, that my pathway is clearer and my burdens are lighter. I live, move, and have my being in that presence. And I know that I cannot be separate from that presence. I am one with it. God is as I am, and I am as God is. And so as I know that for myself, I know that for everyone here, and I know that for everyone that is in the sound of my voice. And so I'm so grateful this morning for being able to gather and commune on this philosophy that we love. And And so I bless this day. I bless Reverend Katherine, knowing that as she speaks, those words are being channeled from God. And where God is, all is well. And so I let it be. And so it is.
Thank you, Don. That was beautiful. Thank you, John. That was beautiful. I got Don and John today.
Don and John.
Here we go. And I want to welcome you once again to this experience, and just remind you that it's so wonderful when you can jump on and say hello. That chat function there is really wonderful for us to still keep that sense of community. And I say this all the time, but it's really hard to be speaking to a camera and not see your faces and to be able to really have that interaction. And I keep saying that it's a plus for you because you all get to talk through the middle of service. When you were here, you weren't able to talk through the middle of service, but now you can. You
Now,
know?
don't be getting any bad habits from when we get back together.
Knowing that when we come back, it might be a little bit different. But go ahead and say hello on the chat function. Let's give some reactions to the music that we've got and the experience. So yeah, all of it. You know, we love to have that interaction. It feeds us a little bit more that we get to have that experience.
You know,
it is wonderful to see.
It's the closest thing we can get to seeing y'all in person. So it's really nice to hear from you.
Did you just say y'all?
Y'all.
I love that.
I know I do. I'm from California.
I know, I love it. John Foltz just said y'all. There you go, that's a new one.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm not going to diss on the y'all because I say it every once in a while too. But my mom is from Alabama, that's why I say
well,
y'all,
you have a pass on that one.
Yeah, okay, good. So anyways, so here we are in a new month. February.
I can't believe it.
We've got our Valentine's flowers. We're getting ready for Valentine's Day. It's a big deal this month. Lots of love being shared and expressed. And I'm really excited about moving forward in this year. We're already up and running, and we've got a lot going on. February is also Black History Month, and if you know about Center for Spiritual Living Temecula Valley, we are a radically inclusive, affirming, and welcoming community. And so this month we're going to be marking and honoring Black History Month through some of our readings and our music. Each week we've got something special just to stand up and make a statement of inclusion and just honor and celebrate those contributions of wonderful and supportive and powerful Black Americans and metaphysicians who have made a difference to us. So we're going to be doing that this month. But today, also, Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh my gosh.
Super Bowl Sunday, are you ready?
Unbelievable.
Are you ready? Okay.
I still can't believe Tom Brady's in it again.
Right? Well,
God,
okay, so this is the thing.
Go away.
Be proud of me. It's Kansas City against Tampa Bay, right?
Yeah,
the fact that I even know that is like a miracle, okay? And so here I am, I'm a New England girl who is trying to figure out, am I supposed to be like loyal and support Tom Brady, or am I supposed to be loyal and root against him? Like, I don't know what to do with that.
What does your heart say?
Well, my heart says I'm rooting for the chicken wings.
That's the food,
You know,
the
like,
snacks.
yeah.
If you root for the snacks, you
then I
can't
can't
go wrong.
lose, you know? Like, I'm rooting for the chicken wings, I think. But truth is, I'm rooting for the soup. So we are doing Super Bowl Sunday. Today's the last day of our Super Bowl. We're going to be here after service. If you've got some donations for our the Community Mission of Hope, we're collecting soup and stew. Get it? Super Bowl, yay! So before you get your snacks together and you want to swing by the center after service between 11:30 and 1, come on by. Our practitioners are going to be here. We're available for prayer. We're making collections. You can buy the book of the year if you'd like from our bookstore. You could if you're masked up and promise to be socially distanced, we'll give you a tour of the sanctuary. We're just really excited to be of service in our community. And so before the kickoff, and you have your chicken wings, and we decide what we're going to think about Tom Brady, come on by to the church and we can connect in person safely, masked, socially distanced, and hand sanitizer. Good? Sounds good?
You know, yeah.
I think that sounds good.
Yes.
And so with that, I think we've got a congregational song.
We sure do.
All right.
We sure do.
So you want to come sing with me, Don? Come on up. Maybe put your hands on your heart and just pause in this moment. Let us first be grateful for this breath. How good it is to be awake and alive on this glorious morning, connected through the blessing of technology, and able to participate in this gratitude practice. Gratitude is such a beautiful spiritual practice that brings great peace to the mind, to the heart, to the body. Gratitude is a creative force. It is expansive. And when we acknowledge and are grateful for that which we have in our life, it expands, it multiplies. Gratitude for ourselves is a healing balm. And so on this morning, I want you to, let's do that. Let's be grateful for ourselves today. A little bit of self-love, a little bit of self-appreciation, a little bit of gratitude for this mind, for this heart, all of the feelings we get to feel, for this physical body that is that vehicle through which we experience the glory of life. And so with these few breaths, I just want you to breathe gratitude through your heart and let it expand. Filling you up completely. And then moving out from the borders of your body into the space around you as if you're sitting in a bubble of gratitude. How good it is, how good it feels. And so when you're ready, you can open your eyes and come on back. And so we do this every week now because I think it's really important for us to ground our day in that positive feeling. It allows us to remember that there are still so many blessings that we have in this life. And you are one of them. I want to say thank you to this spiritual community. I want to say thank you for everyone who has been leaning in and supporting the unfoldment of this ministry, especially since we went virtual almost a whole year ago. And we still have the opportunity to connect heart to heart in consciousness across the miles here. And we have only been able to do this by the generous support, generous financial support of our congregation. And so whether you are new to CSL TV or whether you've been a long time participant, member here, we are so grateful that you have stuck with us, that you are tuning in every Sunday, and you are continuing to give financially to this ministry. We have made some major changes over the last year to make it a little bit easier and better for us, and yet we still have staff, we still have a building, we still have an office, and monthly expenses. And so anything that you give really goes to support the unfoldment of this ministry. And as we have our sights set on coming back in to be together in person, we are starting to formulate plans and figure out how it's all going to work. And it's calling us to a greater expansion. And we can only do that when we partner together. And so there are a couple of ways that you could give consciously and donate to the community. You could call our office and speak to our administrator, Diane Keys. Good morning, Diane. We love you at 951-304-0268. You could pop over to our website and hit that donate button. It takes you right through PayPal, or you could mail in a check, an offering to us. And just know that no matter what the size is, it makes a difference. And it makes a difference in our own lives when we give consciously. When we practice spiritual giving and conscious giving, it aligns us with that divine flow of giving and receiving. And especially when we give to something that inspires us, that serves us, that supports us. And the love of this spiritual community, I have heard over and over again through this last year, has supported so many people in getting through this really rough time. So we're so grateful for you. And so we're going to bless this offering today and come together in consciousness here. And just know that each of us is sourced and supported from on high, from that divine infinite resource that is God in action. And I know that as we open to receive this divine gift and give out to that which we believe in, that which inspires us, that which spiritually supports us, I know we open that channel of giving and receiving and allowing ourselves to be part of the fullness of life. And so I bless this gift on this day. I bless this offering and know that it goes to support that desire to be of deep, great support in the world, that CSL TV is a light unto those who can be served and supported by this message. And any barriers, any limitations to allowing for that message to go forth simply fall as that light shines brightly. And as we give, we receive and we are blessed. And so I bless it, I give thanks for it, and simply allow it to be. And so it is. And so please join me in our affirmation of abundance together.
Yes.
Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am prosperous now. Yes.
Blessed always, blessed always, for the arms of God surround us. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say, Amen. Blessed always, blessed always, for the arms of God surround us. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say, Amen. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say, Amen.
In honor of Black History Month, we have a spiritual reading today from Howard Thurman. Howard Thurman was an American author, philosopher, theologian, educator, and civil rights leader who was born in 1899 and died in 1981. As a prominent religious figure, he played a leading role in many social justice movements and organizations of the 20th century. Thurman's theology of radical nonviolence influenced and shaped a generation of civil rights activists. And he was a key mentor to leaders within the civil rights movement, including Martin Luther King Jr. Thurman was a prolific author, writing 20 books on theology, religion, and philosophy. The most famous of his works, Jesus and the Disinherited, deeply influenced Martin Luther King Jr. and other leaders, both black and white, of the modern civil rights movement. The following reading comes from his book, The Inward Journey. The title, The Moments of High Resolve. Keep fresh before me the moments of my highest resolve. Despite the dullness and barrenness of the days that pass, if I search with due diligence, I can always find a deposit left by some former radiance. But I had forgotten. At the time, it was full-orbed, glorious, and resplendent. I was sure that I would never forget. In the moment of its fullness, I was sure that it would illumine my path for all the rest of my journey. I had forgotten how easy it is to forget. There was no intent to betray and seem so sure at the time. My response was whole, clean, authentic. But little by little, there crept into my life the dust and the grit of the journey. Details, lower level demands, all kinds of cross currents. Nothing momentous, nothing overwhelming, nothing flagrant, just wear and tear. If there had been some direct challenge, a clear-cut issue, I would have fought it to the end and beyond. In the quietness of this place, surrounded by the all-pervading presence of God, my heart whispers, keep fresh before me the moments of my highest resolve, that in fair weather or in foul, in good times or in tempest, in the days when the darkness and the foe are nameless or familiar, I may not forget that to which my life is committed. Keep fresh before me the moments of my highest resolve. And so it is.
Thank you, John. That's one of my favorites. It's so powerful. Thank you for reading it for us today. And so I get to welcome our very own John Foltz, who's got a special song for us today. Also, I think you do.
I do.
Ready?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Sure.
well, please welcome John Foltz.
Hi, thank you, thank you. Happy Sunday, everyone. Happy February. To continue on the theme of Black History Month, which I think is just such an important thing, I actually love the phrase that Reverend Katherine used earlier about our community, radically inclusive. I think that's fantastic. So I'm going to do right now is, was used as kind of an anthem during the Civil Rights Movement in the 60s. It was written by Curtis Mayfield and performed by him and his group, The Impressions, and it's been covered by a bunch of artists. I'm sure a lot of you people know it. Please sing along at home, and if you don't want to, just kind of, take it in. Jam, yeah. Did you say jam? Jam. Jam.
Oh. Yes,
I love that song.
it's a beautiful
You
song.
just feel it.
Yes, you can feel it. Thank you, John. That was
All
great.
Breathe.
All right, deep breath, deep breath, deep breath. So our annual theme that we've started this year is timeless wisdom and evolutionary vision. And I love that because it's allowing us to deepen our understanding of our core beliefs and transform or transmute that into action. Using what we truly know and trying to embody it and support putting it into action in this year. And it feels like it's the right time to do that, doesn't it? It feels like we're wanting to create something new, to step out in a new way. We've had enough of what's been. Let's just start with that. I've had enough. Have you had enough of how it's been lately? Yeah. Okay. So, so I'm not alone in this. So it's time to start to vision for what possibly could be. And that's our annual theme. But as we move into February, our February theme is this: one journey, many paths. One journey, many paths. So this month we're looking at the spiritual path itself and realizing that it is one journey. And the journey is toward a deep realization of ourselves as part of the oneness of life. A realization that we are part of the divine presence of God. And then we each get there our own way. We each have our own path to get to that realization. We're all headed in the same direction. We're all headed to that place of oneness. But each of us has our own issues, challenges, ways of looking at the world and ourselves. And so we're going to use this wisdom, we're going to use this knowing that we have, we're going to use these spiritual principles to each cut our own path towards that understanding of ourselves as part of the oneness of life. And so this month, I'm specifically pulling together different spiritual practices that are going to guide us along that path. Now, it's not going to look the same for each and every one of us. But if we integrate these practices into our lives, it supports us in getting there. It's like using a riding lawnmower on a very high grass, right? Cutting a path in that versus using a push mower. Do you know that I actually used a push mower once? Like I used one like a push mower, that's not electric or anything. You push it, It's like, and it was really hard to do. So let's get on the lawnmower. The riding lawnmower and make our path to a place of realization rather than having to work and try and figure it out ourselves. And these spiritual practices are going to help us do that. And so today, my talk is a full mind or mindful. Which are we living in? Are we living in that place of that full mind, or are we being mindful? So imagine with me. Let's start with this. Imagine with me that you're visiting a friend who just moved to a new city. And on the first morning you arrive, the day after you arrive, the first morning, you get up to go for your morning walk. And so you step outside and take a deep breath, and you feel great, and you get off and you take off in this brisk this brisk pace walking down the street. And you can't believe it, because this is the first time you've had off in a long while. You haven't traveled in over a year. And it's been so stressful lately, hasn't it? And so right before you left, you had it out with your boss about that project that you were working on. And not to mention your adult children who gave you such a hard time about traveling. You shouldn't be traveling it. It's not safe. What are you going to do? How are you going to take care of yourself? And boy, oh my goodness, was that traveling rough. Not only did they mess up your reservation to the point where you almost missed your plane, but there was actually a delay. And so your plane coming in was late, and so you had to inconvenience your friend who had to pick you up a couple hours later than you thought. But here you are. You're finally here. You're finally present. You're finally walking down the street and experiencing this glorious morning. And then you stop and you look around and you realize that you have no idea where you are. That you didn't pay attention to where you were going. You don't even remember what your friend's house looks like because it's a new house and you don't know the number. You didn't bring your phone with you. And wait, how did I get here? Have you ever had that experience? Have you ever had that experience where you're doing something and you have no idea how you got to where you got? Have you ever been driving somewhere and then you can't even remember taking a turn? Have you ever had that experience that you just do something and you don't even remember? This is a really common experience that many of us have. We have a tendency to live in our minds, and often we're not conscious or aware of what's really happening around us. And so that's how the bag of Doritos, hello game day reference, that's how the bag of Doritos or the bag of Hershey's Kisses get eaten and you don't even remember tasting one of them. Oh, is that just me? Okay, well, okay. It's how we can be with someone and not even notice that they're upset. And when we do notice, we have no idea why they're upset, and especially when they're mad at us. That's a shout out to all my male friends whose wives get upset with them sometimes when they don't know what they've done, right? We get caught in the loop of our thoughts, and it takes us on a roller coaster ride in our heads, and we have a complete disconnect with the outside world and even the true state of our mind and our being. The beginning of the spiritual journey. This is the first step. The beginning of the spiritual journey is about awakening to the present moment. It's about becoming aware of the state of our minds, of our bodies, of our emotions. And how by bringing attention to these areas, we can realize where we are, where our pain and our sadness is, where our grief and our regret lives within us. And we get to start to see what's real and what's not. If we can start to allow these more difficult emotions to support us, we can be present with them. We can allow those more challenging, difficult emotions to guide us, to bring us to a deeper realization of what's true, of what's ours to own and what's not. But the issue is that we keep telling stories in our head. We keep living in this space, and in my family, in my ministry, everything I do, I call it filling in the cracks. How we have a tendency to fill in the cracks of a story without any understanding of whether it's true or not. And so often we have an experience, we tell a story about it, we fill in the rest of the cracks of it. What it means is it rounds out the story, and then we solidify it by telling it in our head over and over again. And the other person who's in the story has no idea what you're talking about because none of it is true. And so often we do that, we live in our minds, and what we're talking about today is your mind full? Is it full of your thoughts, of those stories? Or can you be in a place of mindfulness? So this process will bring peace, it'll bring freedom, and great joy to our experience. The founder of religious science, Ernest Holmes, said this. He said, when in thought, in contemplation, in imagination, in inward feeling, we consciously return to the source of our being, that divine pattern which already exists, springs forth into newness of manifestation. So what he's saying here is that each of us is part of a divine pattern of life, of the fullness, of the love, of the joy. That pattern is the truth of you. That's God as you. And it's only when we are consciously connected, when we are awake to that truth, that we can bring forth the experience of that in our lives. So the first spiritual practice we're going to talk about this month is mindfulness. John Kabat-Zinn, who was a pioneer in mindfulness in the medical field, says this. Mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and not judgmentally. This kind of attention nurtures greater awareness, clarity, and acceptance of the present moment reality. It wakes us up to the fact that our lives unfold only in moments. If we're not fully present for many of those moments, we may not only miss what is most valuable in our lives, but also fail to realize the richness and the depth of our possibilities for growth and transformation. So we talk a lot in the science of mind about becoming aware of our thoughts, because we know the power of thought. Thought is creative. It's one of the main pathways that we create our experience in our lives. It creates our worldview and shows us our place in life and in the world. Our thoughts lead to our choices and our reactions. And it's the habitual nature of our thoughts that can get us into trouble. Because one thing that we really need to understand is that a lot of our thought processes happen unchecked. And so I want to remind us that we have over 6,000 thoughts a day. We have, and I think it's more than that, but we have over 6,000 thoughts a day. But only a small percentage of them are conscious. Many of them, charged with emotion, are limiting, and they hold us in a cage of our own limitation. So from this, what happens is we formulate an idea of ourselves, our capabilities, our worthiness, our limitations, all of those things that are basically not true. And these thoughts keep us from realizing what's real. I heard a story about some kids at a school who played a prank. And what they did was they got 3 goats. And they, on one goat, they put the number 1. And on the second goat, they put number 2. And on the third goat, they put number 4, and they released them into the school. And so what ended up happening was the administration had to shut down school for the day because they couldn't find number 3. Right? They couldn't find number 3. So, and they thought that there was a number 3, right? There was not. There was a 1 and a 2 and a 4. So the kids won because they got what they wanted. They got out of school. But the idea is how are those stories that we're telling ourselves, filling in those cracks, affecting our experience? One thing that we learned in a new way this year is that our minds and our experience of stress are completely connected. We all suffer from stress. It's part of the human condition to suffer from stress. The human body is actually hot-wired for stress. The truth is, the effectiveness of our stress reaction has ensured our survival over the eons of time that we've been alive. And consequently, the issue is that our default setting is one of hypervigilance. So I'm sure you've heard of the fight, flight, or freeze response, right? If something or someone is perceived as a threat, the body's alarm system is activated, instantly preparing to fight, to flee, or to freeze. Now when that happens, energy and stress hormones are released. They're supposed to, so they can help you run faster, right? If you have to run. Your heart speeds up, pumping blood as quickly as possible so that your arms and legs function optimally, just in case you have to fight. That's me fighting, just in case you have to fight. And the long-term body functions are shut down. So your growth systems, your digestion, reproduction, they all shut down because they're not needed in the midst of the threat. But what the problem is this, and that's a really wonderful system, and it helped when we were being chased by saber-toothed tigers. I don't know if that was actually a real thing or if that was just the Flintstones, but when you're being, if they were chased by an enemy. But the problem is that when the fight or flight system is activated repeatedly and needlessly through everyday stresses, it wears on our physical bodies, leaving us susceptible to illness. The blood pressure, if our blood pressure is elevated over a long time, it leads to heart disease. The increased insulin makes us susceptible to diabetes. Our immune systems are compromised. Our memory and our thought processes are disrupted. And so not only is it dangerous for our bodies, our well-being, and our health, but an elevated level of stress ends up putting us into a negative fear loop in our minds. Our thoughts get stuck on that hamster wheel, going around and around and around endlessly. It's a fear response. And so what that fear response does is it leads to the body's fear response, which leads to making choices as to how we act in the world, because this fight, flight, or freeze also affects our brain function and how we perceive what's happening in the world and how we choose to react to those situations. And so what happens when we choose how we react, it calls in similar experiences, which puts us back in the loop of affirming, see, this is how life really is. When we're completely operating on a lie. It's not necessarily true, it's just the story we're telling in our head over and over and over again. Now this happens with our safety, but this happens with a lot of the ways that we think of ourselves, whether we're worthy, whether we're capable, whether we're lovable, whether we're smart enough, right? All of those, what we call the enough syndrome, not enough syndrome, right? That we think that we're not enough. And whatever, fill in the blank, because we all got one of them. It's a story we keep telling ourselves, and our bodies keep reinforcing it and bringing it more into our experience. And so we only see through that lens of not enough. And it's deepening the experience in our physical bodies. Now, the good news, you knew I had to turn. The good news is that through our spiritual practices, through our spiritual path of awakening, we can actually change our brains and how our brains function and make it work for the better. We can get off that hamster wheel. That's where the mindfulness practice comes in. Now, mindfulness is a 2,500-year-old practice, and it was taught by the Buddha as a way of overcoming grief, sorrow, pain, suffering, anxiety, and of realizing peace and happiness. Now let's take a look at last year. And some of those things were in there. Grief, sorrow, fear, anxiety, right? Peace and happiness. I think that sounds like a really good path to walk down for 2021. So that's why we're starting our spiritual practices with a mindfulness practice this month. Mindfulness is deliberately paying attention to those things we normally wouldn't notice and becoming aware of our present moment experience as it arises. Non-judgmentally, and this is the key, with kindness and compassion, okay? So I'm going to say that again. Mindfulness is becoming aware of the present moment reality of the state of our minds, of the state of our bodies, of the state of our emotions and our hearts, and witnessing it non-judgmentally with kindness and compassion. And the reason why I'm cracking up about this is because I know, sometimes your minds are not the most safe space for you to be in. I know, that sometimes we are hypercritical of ourselves, that we are so judgmental of our reactions, of how we show up in the world, of how we think we should be compared to how we are. And that is the thing that cuts us off from God. That in itself is the thing that cuts us off from the presence that is alive as you. When we judge ourselves so harshly, we turn away from the grace of the divine, from the inspiration that is there for us, from our infinite abundance, from all of the blessings of God that are here for us. When we judge ourselves harshly, when we criticize ourselves, when we get on that negative thought process, that hamster wheel, it's as if we're shutting the door to the greater part of ourselves, which is the infinite spirit of love itself. This is a very important practice, and it's time for us to open to the truth of who we are. Each of us has that divine spark of God alive at the center of our being, and it's time to acknowledge it, to fan that flame of that spark so that its light not only fills you, but shines out into the world. And the way that we're going to get there is through becoming conscious of our thought processes and all the lies that we tell ourselves over and over again. When we pay attention to what's happening in our mind and in our body, to our thoughts and our emotions, to the stories we tell ourselves, the emphasis is on what we're experiencing, not why. A lot of us like to go down that rabbit hole of, well, I'm like this because my mom was like this, and my mom was like this because my grandmother was like this, and I'm like this because I had this experience when I was 2, and then this, okay. That may be the why. but the why's not going to heal it. Being conscious of it, being present with it, and allowing those emotions, those negative emotions have wisdom for us. Those negative thoughts, those negative beliefs about ourselves actually can be pathways and guides to really what's true if we can sit with them and be with them and allow them to come up so that you can realize this just isn't true. When you start to realize this is not true, this limitation that I'm holding on myself isn't true, what comes up right behind it is what the truth is. I'm not capable of handling this, because look at all these ways that I've been capable of handling things in my life before. It's as if the truth of your being wants to come forward, but in order to do that, it needs to push out all the garbage first, right? It needs to push it all out so that what's really true can come forward. I always remember that Jill Bolte Taylor, the neuropsychologist who documented her own stroke so beautifully, it was such a beautiful expression of her experience. What she says is this, that it's only a minute and a half that we experience each emotion. So it's a minute and a half of negative emotion. Now the caveat to that is, you can be with an emotion for a minute and a half, it can come up and can go out. But if you get on that hamster wheel of thoughts, of believing that's true, then that's why it perpetuates it. That's why it keeps coming back. But if we can learn to be present, to witness, to observe our experience, and to allow what is to be, and what I'm going to say with curiosity, not push it away, not pretend it's not happening, not try and to talk yourself out of why that, why it is what it is. But if you can be present with it for a minute and a half, you can allow that deeper knowing to come forward. And I call that the light of God. But we have to stop judging ourselves so harshly. So in mindfulness practice, what happens is that we notice our habitual patterns of thinking and behavior. And we become aware of the limitations that we've created for ourselves and the stories that aren't true, that aren't real. And we realize how mindless we are for most of the time, no offense. We're all pretty mindless. Remember eating the bag, how many people have eaten the bag of Doritos? Okay, don't raise your hand, just in case your family's sitting next to you. And how much of our lives pass by us unnoticed as we relive the past over and over and over again. We keep thinking we've made mistakes, and we keep punishing ourselves for those mistakes over and over and over again, and that doesn't get us anywhere, because when we do that, there's no space for God. There's no space for realization. There's no space for unfoldment and evolvement in that. The present moment, this moment, is the only moment where it's possible to change, to create what we desire. And we only make wise choices if we are truly aware of what our experience is. Not that we're filling in the cracks, not that we're telling old stories, not that we're beating ourselves up because we think we deserve it. You don't deserve to be beaten up by your own mind or anybody else's. The moment of awareness that's cultivated through mindfulness offers a window of opportunity to respond rather than to react. It creates space where we can think twice and choose from a higher space. And what I'm going to say is we're going to choose from the heart. We're going to choose from an intention of love. For all the people that I've talked to and all the people that I've come in contact with over the years, no matter what their ideology is, no matter what their philosophies are, no matter what they're doing, their impetus is love. It's because what they believe in. And that's how they move forward. So if we can go to that higher place of realization who we are, if we can go to that place of understanding that we are more capable than we think we are, then we can choose out of the space of our hearts how we want to be in the world. That is where healing and wholeness happen. So the gift of mindfulness is that in the present moment, we're connected to the higher part of our being. We're connected to the Spirit. We're connected to God. And we allow the divine presence, the support, the love, the guidance, the grace to come into our experience. And again, that's what I've heard over and over again, that people are just wanting to have some comfort right now. We're just wanting to have some peace. And the word that keeps coming up each week when we do our meditations is hope. We set intentions at the beginning of the week in our spiritual connections at 7. And I keep hearing people saying, what do you want to experience this week? They want to experience hope. Well, we have to get to the place where we can welcome the divine, where we can welcome God into our experience. And that's where the hope comes from. Because when you commune with yourself and the higher part of your being, which is spirit, through your meditation, through your contemplation, that light of the one shines in your experience. So here's the scoop. If we can live our lives with courage and face our more painful ideas about ourselves and emotions and beliefs that we hold, we can allow that divine presence to shine its light and show us how those ideas of ourselves are not true and reveal what is actually true. If we can step forward each day, more curious about life and ourselves, conscious and awake, we'll discover a depth and a wisdom and a beauty that we never let ourselves see. Let us, as Meister Eckhart said, be willing to be a beginner each and every morning. And we'll discover a glorious life and experience of joy and freedom that our souls have been craving. We can do this not with an overfilled mind, but when we are mindful of ourselves, of our surroundings, and of each other. Again, John Kabat-Zinn said this: perhaps the most spiritual thing any of us can do is simply look through our own eyes, see with eyes of wholeness, and act with integrity and kindness. And so my challenge this week is for each of us to step forward, awake to the life that is actually happening around us, and not get lost on our walk, because we know exactly who we are and where we're going. I hope you join me on this walk this month. And so does.
Nice.
Thank you. And so let's welcome John Foltz back.
Good.
Thank you.
I'm excited to hear more about the spiritual practices yet to come this
There's
month.
a lot.
So fun. You know what? I love that they're called practices.
So,
You know, and the nice thing about that is the more that we practice them, the easier they become to do.
Use me, oh God, I stand for you. Here I'll abide as you show me light, it's a light as me, as you, so use me. Oh God, I stand for you. Here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. Show me all that I must do. Show me all that I must do.
Yay! We'll clap, the three of us will clap. That was great, beautiful.
Hard to go wrong with Rickie Byars.
It's hard to go wrong with Rickie Byars. So I have some announcements, some reminders of things that are going on. We've got our book study on Wednesday mornings. They're reading Living an Inspired Life by Wayne Dyer, and you can reach out to our own Pam Migliosi for that. The men's ministry is meeting on Wednesdays online, and you can reach out to Reverend Michael Summers for that. Our Sisters in Spirit group is meeting on the first and third Thursdays of the month. Again, that's Pam Migliosi. And our Spiritual Connection at 7 series is continuing. So, and I love this. If you want to step forward in a mindfulness practice, starting to join our Spiritual Connection at 7 group is a great way to start it. 7 a.m. for the early risers, 7 p.m. for the not so early risers, and just come on for a 20-minute meditation. And our Wednesday evening is going to go back into a little bit more of a connection group, a check-in, and spiritual practice. And so that's with me on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock. So let's see. Our practitioner, Suzanne Ward, next week is going to start her online grief support group. It starts Tuesday, February 16th. It runs for 6 weeks. It's open for the first 2 weeks and then it will be closed. So if you or someone that you know has been dealing with grief or loss due to the loss of a loved one, a change in life, a divorce, a diagnosis, a change in relationship status, please reach out to Suzanne directly and think about joining this group. So today is it. This is it. It's Super Bowl. It's the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl. And so we will be here after service if you want to come by and make a donation for the Community Mission of Hope. Now, of course, the reason why we do this is January traditionally is one of the lowest months for donations for our local food pantries. And with everything that's happened in this year, so many more families have slid into food insufficiency, and they have a greater demand here in the Temecula Valley than they've had in years. And so we wanted to do something that was fun, and we joined with the Interfaith Council and a couple of the other spiritual communities in town, and we're doing the Super Bowl. Now this year we're not doing a big like count each can and compete. That's for next year.
Next year,
next year we're on it. But this year we're doing collaborative in the spirit of helping our neighbors, which of course we want to do anyways. And so we've been collecting cans. I think we have over 200 cans that we've donated so far. But today's the day, so come on down between 11:30 and 1. Grab a prayer. If you want to come see the sanctuary, peek your head into our new space. Just make sure you're wearing a mask, and we would love to see you. So please come and join us here. And then, you know it's next Sunday, right, John? What's next Sunday?
Better
Today
know.
is the 7th, and then next Sunday would be what
Next
day?
Sunday would, well, just look at the flowers and there'll be a clue for that.
Next Sunday is Valentine's Day. And so listen, I know I say this to the guys. It's really for everybody. But guys, I'm helping you out. I'm trying to help you, okay? So this year, we're going to do Valentine's Day shout outs. And so what that means is you could send me a little email with a little love note, not long, just a little quick, hello dear, I love you, happy Valentine's Day, whatever you would like to say, church appropriate. And you can email it to Katherine at csltv.org, because you know I would get some. We've got some friends who would send some saucy things. No saucy things, okay? Send me an email at Katherine at csltv.org with a little shout out for your beloved, and we will sprinkle them through the service next week and celebrate Valentine's Day from afar. And again, guys, I'm working for you. So come on, let me help you. Let me help you. And so with that, we're going to pray. So John, come on over. we're still trying to have some fun and have some joy in this.
Wicked, keep that up.
Absolutely,
That's not Even when we get back in person, we don't need to get
Absolutely.
stodgy.
Yeah, no,
Let's
we're
be
not.
fun.
We are who we are,
We
and
are.
so, you know, I love the love, I love Valentine's Day, I love the chocolate, I love all of it, and most of all, I love connecting with you. And so let's come together in consciousness here and just breathe for a moment. And so sinking into that space of the heart and allowing ourselves to be present in this moment, I remember God, that infinite source and support and love that is infused in all things, revealing itself in all beings everywhere. For God is this life revealing itself in such magnificent ways. And it is here in this word and its wholeness and its fullness and its truth for each of us is part of this divine life. And so I speak my word on this day for each, for wholeness, for connection, for peace in mind, in heart, and body. As we all step forth and awaken to what is true and let go of that sense of limitation, of those old stories that we tell about ourselves, of those old ideas that we hold about ourselves, and allow for that oneness to reveal itself, that connection, that support, that grace of God to guide us. And so as we step forth in this week, I know that we awaken to the true nature of our being, that we take each step along our walk aware and awake to where we are and where we're going, surrendering those false ideas, surrendering those ideas we hold about ourselves, and stepping into the light of our own being, which is God through us. And so I bless this. I call it forth, I celebrate it, I honor it, and I embrace the love, which is God in action, how good it is to experience the love of self, the love of one another, and the love of life, for it is spirit. And so with a grateful heart, I see this, I claim it, I call it forth, I honor it, and allow it to be. And so it is.
There was a time in my life I thought I had to do it all myself. Didn't know the grace of God was sufficient. Didn't know the love of God was at hand. Now I can say that if you are discouraged, struggling just to make it through another day, you got to let go, let it all go. And this is what you have to say: I release and I let go. Let the spirit of my life and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in spirit. Yes, I'm only for God. I release, I let go. Let the spirit from my life. My heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in spirit. Yes, I'm only for God.
And as we step forth in this week, I know that we are mindful and let go of the full mind. And so it is. All right, everybody, have a wonderful week. We hope to see you in a little while, and send me those Valentine shout outs. Happy Sunday.